It was one of those summer evenings when the world seemed to slow down, the heat of the day giving way to the warm twilight air. The house was quiet, but there was an unmistakable tension hanging in the air. My mother had always been strict, always had everything in order, yet tonight something about her felt different. I could sense it in the way she moved around the house, her eyes flickering toward me with a look I couldn't quite place. It wasn't just motherly concern, but something deeper. I sat in my room, pretending to focus on the book in my lap, but my mind was elsewhere. I could hear her in the next room, pacing softly, and I knew she was thinking. The silence between us was growing heavy, filled with unsaid words and the electric pull of something we had both been avoiding for so long. I wasn't sure when it had started, but over the past few weeks, I had begun to notice how different things had become between us. There was a shift in the way she looked at me, the way she spoke to me, no longer just a mother but a woman with dreams she could no longer hide. I should have been concerned, but instead, I was intrigued, drawn to her in a way that felt wrong yet irresistible. I wasn't sure what I was feeling, only that the pull between us had grown stronger with each passing day, and tonight it felt like something was about to break. Just then, the door to my room creaked open, and there she was, standing in the doorway, her eyes locked on mine. She didn't say anything at first, but the way she looked at me sent a thrill through my body, igniting a fire deep within me that I couldn't control. There was something dangerous about this, something forbidden, yet it only made me want it more. "We have to be quick," she whispered, her voice low and filled with urgency as she stepped into the room, closing the door quietly behind her. My heart began to race. I knew exactly what she meant. My father would be home soon, and the house would be full of noise and routine once again, but right now it was just the two of us in this stolen moment, and I could feel the heat between us rising. She came closer, and I could feel her presence like a magnetic force pulling me in. I didn't move, didn't say a word, as she reached out, her fingers brushing lightly against my cheek. The touch was soft, almost tentative, but it sent a rush of warmth through me that made my skin tingle. I closed my eyes for a moment, savoring the sensation, but when I opened them again, she was even closer, her face inches from mine. "Are you sure about this?" I whispered, my voice shaky as I searched her eyes for any hint of hesitation. But there was none. She looked back at me with a determination that mirrored my own, and in that moment, I knew there was no turning back. "I've never been more sure," she breathed, her lips brushing against mine as she spoke, sending a surge of warmth through my entire being. She leaned in then, soft at first, testing the waters. But when I responded, when I leaned closer, the dam broke. The connection deepened, becoming urgent, and I could feel her hands sliding over my shoulders, pulling me closer, pressing her presence against mine in a way that left no room for doubt about what she wanted. "If you enjoyed this video, consider liking my video." We stumbled back toward the bed, our eyes locked, the world around us fading away until there was only the feel of her against me, the sound of our ragged breathing filling the room. My hands found their way to her waist, pulling her closer still, needing to feel every inch of her against me, and she let out a soft sigh that sent a jolt of warmth straight through me. "We don't have much time," she murmured against my lips, her hands sliding up under my shirt, her touch sending waves of heat through my body. "We have to be quick before they catch us." The urgency in her voice only fueled the fire between us, and I felt my own restraint slipping away as I leaned in closer, my hands roaming over her arms, desperate to feel more. She responded in kind, her fingers working at the buttons of my shirt, her movements quick and practiced, as if she had been waiting for this moment as long as I had. Time seemed to blur as we lost ourselves in each other, our hands and eyes moving in a frantic dance, both of us aware of how little time we had yet neither of us willing to slow down. The warmth between us was almost unbearable, and I could feel the tension building with every touch, every glance, every whispered word of need and longing. Her hands moved lower, brushing against my sides, and I gasped at the sensation of her fingers against my skin. She was teasing me, drawing out the moment, making me ache for her in ways I had never experienced before. I could feel her breath hot against my neck as she leaned in closer, her presence enveloping me, leaving a trail of warmth in its wake. Help me reach my first 1,000 subscribers. Your support is what makes this journey possible, so don't forget to subscribe. I leaned back, pulling her with me, and she settled beside me, our eyes locked in a way that made my heart race. The way she moved, the way she looked at me, it was all too much and yet not enough. I needed more, and I could tell by the look in her eyes that she felt the same. "We have to be fast," she whispered again, her breath coming in short, excited bursts as she leaned closer, her fingers tangled in my hair, pulling me into another deep, meaningful gaze. But despite her words, there was nothing rushed about the way she touched me, the way she moved. She was taking her time, savoring every second, drawing out the connection until I could barely stand it. My hand slid up under her shirt, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath my fingers, and she sighed softly, arching her back as I explored her. It was intoxicating, the way we moved together, the way we fit so perfectly, as if this had always been meant to happen. Every touch, every glance, every whispered breath felt like it was drawing us closer and closer to something we couldn't come back from, something neither of us wanted to stop. I could feel the tension building inside me, the warmth rising to a fever pitch as her presence pressed against mine, her hands clutching at me as if she couldn't bear to let go. And then, just when I thought I couldn't take it any longer, she pulled back slightly, her eyes locking onto mine, a playful smile dancing on her lips. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice low and inviting, and I could only nod, my breath catching in my throat as I stared at her. She didn't need to ask twice. In an instant, we were lost in each other again, the urgency of the moment forgotten as we gave in completely to the connection that had been building between us for so long. Her hands moved over me, her eyes sparkling with excitement, and I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. We didn't have much time, but in that moment, it didn't matter. All that mattered was the way she felt beside me, the way her presence moved with mine, the way we fit together in a way that was both perfect and completely unexpected. And as the world outside the door continued on, we lost ourselves in each other, savoring every moment, every touch, every shared breath until time itself seemed to stand still. Her gaze met mine with a force that left me breathless, her fingers tangling in my hair as she pulled me closer, our bodies aligned in a frenzy of warmth and connection. I could feel her breath, warm against my skin, her hands exploring me with an urgency that made my heart race. Every glance, every touch was electric, sending waves of excitement coursing through me. Her presence pressed against mine, and I could feel the tension building between us, a desperate need growing stronger with each passing second. Our hands moved frantically over each other, drawing closer in a mess of warmth and connection, until there was nothing between us but the shared space and the fiery bond we could no longer contain. We tumbled back onto the bed, limbs intertwined, her presence sliding over mine in a way that made my breath hitch. Her gaze became deeper, more intense, as her fingers dug into my back, pulling me closer, her soft sighs filling the air. Every inch of me burned for her, the way she moved beside me, the way her eyes sparkled with excitement, every glance driving me closer to the edge. My hands roamed over her, tracing the curves of her form, feeling the warmth radiating from her as she leaned into me. The tension between us was unbearable, every glance, every touch pushing us closer to the brink, yet still holding back, drawing out the moment until we were both trembling with anticipation, lost in the fire of our connection.